So I just went over and grabbed a couple scrap pieces of wood out of the scrap wood area, and I found a nice short piece of bloodwood. There's a piece of bird's eye maple, and I found some quarter sawn oak. So those are the three pieces that I picked out of the bunch, and you can see you don't need much wood. You can see against the pencil there how big the pieces of wood are. And for this exemplar, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a project using the bloodwood. The first thing you're going to want to do is take out the main components of the pen. I'm going to show you here. You need to grab the two tubes. There are lots of parts, so make sure you keep everything in the bag and you keep everything really well organized. Put your name on the bag with a Sharpie so you know which one's yours once you get started. And all these small pieces, make sure they stay in your Ziploc because they're really easy to miss, and as soon as you're missing one piece, your pen isn't going to work. Alright, so I'll just push that off to the side. Like I said, I'm going to go with the bloodwood. So we have our two pieces of brass tubing here, and you're going to see one is a little bit longer than the other. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that you recognize that and that you mark these accordingly. So you can see the piece of wood that I found. I went and I found it, and then I got my pieces of tubes out, figured out how much I needed, and then I made the piece a little bit longer than was required. But as you know, on wood you have grain, and you're going to want to find, see what your grain lines are and set it up and find out which part of the wood that you like the most. You might want to work off one end, you might want to work off the other. I'm just going to kind of center mine. That's going to leave a little bit of space as I go along for my cuts and for my drilling. But I'll mark that in the middle where that piece is going to get cut. Now I can go ahead and go make that cut on the bandsaw. Okay, I went and I made my cut on the bandsaw. You can see that's where it goes back together. There's all the cut lines. So you want to take it, put it back together, and I like to use and you can make any kind of a marking you want. I like to use a cabinet marking. So I'm just going to make a line that goes across these two pieces. Okay, so I know that that's where they connect when I put them back together. At this point, we're now ready to move on to creating the holes. So we're going to have to create holes that we're going to put the tubes into. So once it's finished, those tubes are going to be slid into those two pieces of wood. So let's go get started on that. So this is the drill bit that you're going to use, and it's a specified drill bit for this project. And when you're going through and you're making it, I like to set it up so I can see how deep to go into the wood. So I line up one of my tubes against it, and then you can go ahead and wrap your tape around it so you can set the depth for your holes. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So I got it so it's deep enough for that drill bit. I might have to adjust my tape a little bit. I'll see as I go here. So now that I have my tape set up and I have my tubes ready to go, I have my pieces of wood. Now I got to take them all and set them up in a vise. So I'm going to show you the vise that we have. Here's the vise, the upper view, but I'm going to change views here so you can see how we're going to set this up in a moment. But when you do decide, or when you're ready to do this, you're going to want to find center on your piece of wood. So in order to find center, I think most of you know how to do this by now. You'll need a ruler, and you're going to go from corner to corner. Just run and scribe your line corner to corner. Go from the other two corners, scribe your line, and then once you do that, you'll have found center in your piece of wood. Now that we have center, I'm going to go ahead and set that piece up inside the vise, and then we're going to go fasten it on the drill press, and we can get started drilling our holes. I have the other piece here as well. Okay, so let's go get started on that. Alright, we are now ready to drill the holes into the two pieces. You can see I have the clamps set up. We have two clamps holding the vise down onto the table, and we're ready to go. Really important when you're doing this that you do back out of the cuts as you go. So I'm just going to turn the machine on and go ahead and go through this. When you're doing this, if you have to clear out the drill bit, don't touch the drill, it's going to be really hot. So I'm just getting some pieces out of there so that the drill can do its job. Okay, you can see now that we have our holes drilled into our pieces. One went all the way through and the other one didn't, but that's okay. You want to set them up, and I should have done this earlier, where I've marked the long tube. I marked that side with L, and then the short tube I marked that side with S. And you can see that we have the grains lined up, everything's ready to go. So we're at the point now where we are ready to glue. Now, once you're at this point, you are ready to start gluing in your tubes. If you look in, if we've made our holes, the one hole, it went all the way through, you can see, the other one didn't, but that's okay, we know it's at the proper depth. And the glue that we use is Gorilla Glue. So it's a really good contact adhesive for the inside. You don't need much, but you want to make sure that you get a good run of it on your whole tube. I wear these gloves just because you will get a little bit on you. So I just run it all the way up and down the tube, and then as I turn the tube into the spot, I just kind of spin it so I know that I'm getting a good application of the glue all the way around. And then you're just going to take it and push it all the way in. Just make sure when you do it that you do get it inset all the way into the piece of wood, and you can move on to the next one. So this one, as you can see, it's got the hole that goes all the way through. The pieces all the way in. Okay, now at this point, we're just going to go ahead and wait for those to dry. Now don't put them up and down like this. I've done that before, and the glue will, there's gravity that's pulling down on those, and they will slide. If you want them to slide a little bit, that's fine, but then you want to take them and put them horizontal to let them glue. So we're just going to go ahead and sit those down and let those dry. Alright, now that we've glued the tubes inside the blanks, we're ready to trim up the ends. So in order to trim up the ends, we are going to use a 10 mil barrel trimmer. So we just take that and have it set up in a vise. This is a really nice vise at the end of the table to use. And you're just going to go in, it's going to clean up the glue inside the hole, and then we're going to bring the trimmer down and it's going to go flush against the brass tubing. So on that end, you can see I didn't have to go far at all because the tubing was right on the end. You can see here that there's a shine that comes off of the tubing once you do get to it. And there's a difference in the feel of the drill bit once you do make contact with the tubing. Alright, so now we're going to go to the other side. So this was the part that I really wish I had some help with when I first got started with making the pens, and I hope this is helpful. So you've made your piece, you've marked it, you have your short side and your long side. So the long side is the tip of the pen, okay, and the short side This side is considered the upper body. So this is the lower body, this is the upper body. And you're going to go through and you're going to set it up on the mandrel now, getting it ready for the lathe. So here we have the mandrel, and I've just kind of set this up so you can see how this all works. So at the back here, you can see we have, excuse me, you can see here that we have the back of the pen. So this is the back clip, okay, and the cap, okay, and then this is just a brass piece that's actually going to go inside of your project once you're finished. So this is going on this side, okay, and when you check this, you're going to see you're going to have these bushings, and I've labeled these ones now, but this bushing, the size of this bushing should match up, and it should be the same diameter as that cap. So I actually would take those two, put them together, just make sure they're the same size, and then you know that bushing goes on the back. Okay, then the next one that that we're going to be looking at is a bushing that goes on the other side of the upper body. So if we have that bushing there, if I take this little washer off, okay, and if I put it against that bushing, okay, I'm going to see that it's exactly the same diameter, so I have the right one in place. And I labeled that one number 2. It'd be nice if these were labeled so we wouldn't have to do this every time. Okay, so that does the bottom side of the pen. So this piece of wood is now going to go between those two bushings. All right, and those two bushings we can put onto the mandrel. All right, so you got your bottom part set and it's going in place. Just going to get that past the screws there. There we go. Okay, so we got that one in place. We'll just set it to the side. And the hardware we're not using right now, I just did that as a reference so you can see what we're doing. Okay, now we're looking at the tip side of the pen, the lower side, and again, there's this piece that goes into the middle, okay, and we're setting it up, making sure this bushing is the same diameter as that piece, and it's going to go in here. And then on the front end, okay, this is the tip. These all come apart, and the part that you're going to want to fit to this front bushing is this piece right here. So you're just going to want to take it, make sure that it sits flush on there. Yep, that's good. And then you can assemble your pieces back together. Now you will have a little booklet that shows you how all these pieces fasten together afterwards, so that's not going to be an issue. But I do think it helps you to see how this is all working together. So there's our second piece. We can slide that on. Okay, and then you have your final bushing. Make sure that bushing is pushed all the way into place. Once that bushing is on there, I like to put on a washer, and then I'm just going to take and hand screw this down. And then once you have it hand screwed down, then you're going to be set to have this put onto the lathe. Then the fun begins. Alright, so that's just hand tightened. I'm going to go tighten that a little bit more before we actually put it onto the lathe. Now it's time to go set it up on the lathe. Alright, I did want to take a moment to show you kind of what we have here before you start to assemble your pen. So you can see this is the tip side of the pen, and I have all the pieces set up here so you can see how they tie into your finished project here. So you have your tip and the brass sleeve at the front of the pen here that will attach onto here. And then you're also going to be putting on your spring. If the spring isn't on, it goes on to your pen. Then you have here your actual this is your refill section. And then on the back of this front side of the pen, you have this coupling that will also attach. Okay, but a lot of people aren't sure exactly where this piece here goes. This is the twist mechanism, and this twist mechanism, it will get fastened onto the threads that are on this this coupling that's at the back here. So that's the part that goes onto the front of the pen, and then it's these two parts here that go onto the back of the pen. Okay, so that's just the back of the pen here, which is your cap, your clip, and it's another brass tube that slides into the existing tube that's in the piece that you created. Okay, and then at the back of the pen here, this is just a spacer, okay, that transitions between the two pieces of wood, and then just a decorative ring that's going to go on there. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and get started on assembling this. You're going to take off the front here. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll just work off of the front of the pen here, the tip side. So we'll take that part off and we'll just move this out of the way. We don't need to have the bushings anymore. So I'm just going to dry fit the front on, and then we have this piece here. Okay, that's going to go in the back. Okay, and it's going to dry fit on. So they'll fit on there enough just to get it started. And then you're going to have this, your pen's going to be going in here, but we'll put that on in a moment. Here's the vise. So at the top here, I'll just slide this down a little bit so we can see it. Inside the vise, there's actually a hole that you can put the pen tip into. I'll just rotate it over so you can see over here we have the adjuster. You can adjust this, get your pen set into place. Okay, I'll tighten it. And then, so now that you have your pen in place, then you're just going to take, when you're using the vise, you're just going to pull up on the clamp and slowly bind the pieces together. You don't have to apply a lot of pressure. Okay, and then once it's together, we can take it out. So that piece is completed. Then we can move on to doing the back of the pen. Now that we have these two, this front side or the tip side completed, we can put in the cartridge, and we can take and tie in the twist mechanism. Alright, front part's done. Now we can move to the back side. So on the back side, here we have the spacer, and on the back you can fasten it in, again dry fit. Then you're going to take and put in your piece. Now this is, you might be able to reach here. Okay, let's just bind it all together. Once that's together, we're really close to being done. You're just going to take the two pieces, put them together, and there you have it. There's your pen, completed. Okay, and just check it, make sure there's no imperfections, and that looks like a pretty nice pen. Okay, good luck on your pen creation. Thanks for watching.